Very strange. Do you have another microphone? Okay. It's kind of I don't know why. Neither of this microphone work, so I have to speak louder. So before the class, we talk about before the break of the previous class. Let me actually go back to where we are. We start to introduce a new class called a person. Okay, a new class called a person. So remember I said I have a two different way to represent an object. One is the C++ way, one is the JSON way. So the same thing, I have a way to describe the object. One is go to person.h. and which describe whatever I want to describe over here. But the other way is the JSON base. So let me actually show you, I can actually generate the JSON representation over here. So I'm going to run the program. You can see that I actually have a JSON representation. I can have the home, which is the GPS location with the latitude and longitude. And then I have the name and I have a VSID. Okay, so this is a JSON representation about the information we care from the class or the object we would like to define. And this information is in front of you is consistent with the C++ representation. Okay, so let's actually just there are two different ways you can think about this. One of the way is that if I want to implement the person.h or person.cpp, I will start it with this one. And then I started from here. I'm thinking, oh, what I need to put in the GPS.h, sorry, person.h and person.cpp. And the code that's actually over there. Oh, I know what I want to do right now. Before I forgot, I have to change the passcode for this lecture. So Washington Post. Okay, this time I'm going to get Washington Post. So Washington Post. And I'm going to click on Washington Post. What's my first word? It's still Trump. Okay, I'm going to use escalates. Okay, I'm going to use escalates. Escalates. Oh, I make sure I know how to spell it correctly. I'm going to the server side. Server should be here. It should be server. And over here, wait a minute, is here. Ah, here. Escalates. Did I spell correctly? Escalates. Okay, escalates. Now I can do a make. And now I can change this client to escalates. And you need to do the same thing. Okay, now I'm going to compile this. Okay, it works. I'm going to run the server. And then I'm going to run the client. Oh, you guys already in. That's good. I actually got my escalates here. Okay, so JSON representation, I got it in. Okay, great. Okay, we're business. Good. Let me move these things down a little bit. Okay, so I want to go back. Can you get rid of this? Yes, thank you. Okay, so in this program, let me actually show you what it looks like. So this is the test program. Um, just like last time, we have a GPS location for this and this and this. And then we create a person. You can see that I have a person, and the person take an ID, three argument into the constructor, and then has a Felix as a name, and then the GPS location is GPS home Woodland. It's a pointer style. Okay, so after I create a person, I actually using a function called dump to JSON. Dump to JSON means that I have a C++ object. I actually generate a JSON which represent the JSON representation of the object. That's why the function is called dump to JSON. So I'm actually converting a C++ to JSON. Okay, and how do I do that? So there are two tricks about what I'm doing here. I should show you. First, I have to show you person.h. So inside person.h, not too surprised, I have the VSID, I have the name, I have the GPS home, and then last class, I add the current location. I can probably get all of that right now. And then I have the constructor, which is the string, and the GPS location. And then what I did is that I have a one function called dump to JSON. So dump to JSON, what's the function prototype? At this moment, you don't need to worry about virtual. You worry about the return type. The return type is what we call the class name. The class is JSON colon value. In this case, JSON colon value is the class the class name, and then it's a pointer to this class, and then I have this called dump to JSON, and the input argument is a void. Okay, so you can see that I actually declare to have a member function called dump to JSON, which will allow me to generate a JSON, which is for the class I just have. Okay. In order to do this, by the way, in order for you to using all the JSON related facility called JSON value, you have to do the following, which are already included in the EE1520. Common.h. Inside the EE1520 common.h, I already have this JSON value include file. So I have this for line is already included. JSON/JSON.h, JSON/reader.h, JSON/writer.h, and JSON/value.h. So I already have this for include file. Later, I will show you the spec of each of the files. This is a very comprehensive JSON library that in C++, which in one of the earlier lecture, I asked you to do sudo apt-get install libjson CPP, I believe is hyphen DEV. That's actually for you to install the whole thing on your environment. Okay, so this is already included. That's why you already have the class JSON value star. So then the rest is actually using this function dump to JSON. Let's actually take a look what that function is. That function was defined under person.h. Remember, this is a declaration, so we have to go to the implementation, which is the definition file. Let me get rid of this. So, okay, under person.cpp, this is constructor, destructor, and this is a member function such as a set home, get home, or get VSID, get name. And then here, this one, this two is what we call operator overloading. And then you actually see this called dump to JSON. Okay, I have a, you see, this is the same function signature. We have a class name, and then we have the function name called dump to JSON, and return is JSON value star. And then the input argument is nothing. So this matched that very well. And let's take a look at this. So inside the function, the first thing I check is whether you do have a name. If you don't have a name, and then you don't have a VSID, or your home is null, if you don't have this, then basically I'm not going to return you anything. Okay. And if you do have that, oh, actually I realize this is a bug. This should be or. This should be or. You guys can think about whether this should be and or should be or, but I bet I should actually change to or. If any of this is true, I'm not going to generate anything. Okay. Oh, you know what? No, it's M. It's M. Sorry. Yeah, sometimes as a programmer, I kind of don't know what I was thinking a while ago. Okay, if none of this, then I don't bother. But as long as I have one of them, I'm actually going to create a new object. So this is the new line I'm going to tell you, is there is a different way to create an object. This is it's like a malloc. Okay, this is a malloc, but in C++, it's called new. So if I say new and then with a class name, JSON colon value, this means that it's a constructor. So I'm actually constructing an object, which is the JSON value object, and I put the address of the first byte into the result pointer. So result pointer essentially is pointing to the JSON value object. Okay. And then, of course, if you do have a name, I would just say result pointer name is equal to this to the name. Okay, now you actually see I have another. By the way, did I ever tell you what is this? Okay, you remember this. Good. Some of you still remember. That's good. Okay, I did talk about this. If this name is equal to null, I'm just putting result pointer, which is the JSON. The name, the key is a name. I put that value in here. And the similar for VSID and the similar for home. For home is address. So I'm actually calling this home dump to JSON. What is this home? This home is GPS. So I'm actually calling the dump to JSON function that's declared in this home. Okay, this part is a little bit tricky. I'm not going through that right now, but you just want to tell you that dump to JSON is a function for you to translate your C++ representation into a Java representation, JSON representation. For some reason, none of this work. This one doesn't work as well. Their battery, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, the department need to do something to fix it. Okay. So when I run this program, That's why I create the object and it will produce a JSON representation. And this was generated by dump to JSON. So I'm showing you this is, of course, I want to tell you uh, how to write the program to convert the C++ object into JSON. But a more important thing is that I can actually, for any of the C++ object, I have a corresponding C++, sorry, JSON representation. Okay, so I'm actually going to use a different example to tell you that, well, I mean, so far I only teach you two things. One is person, one is home. I'm going to tell you something more complicated. Let me actually bring up a JSON, which is not llama, not this one. Huh. Let me move this up a little bit. Okay, inside this JSON, I have a base. I'm actually going to show you a JSON. Okay, this is a JSON. I hope you can see this. Okay, can some of you actually, I know this is very difficult for you to read, but can you actually tell me what this JSON is all about? Just try to read it. And then I will tell you that, oh, wait a minute, this is horrible. What this JSON is. I give you a hint. This is a Facebook related. It's a Facebook Messenger related JSON. Okay, and this is really hard to read, so I'm going to use a program called JSON parse to actually handle this. Okay, this is, I want to remember the where I got the JSON. I will upload. I haven't uploaded this JSON to GitHub. I will upload this JSON to GitHub. Okay, where is my, here. I want to copy base one here. Okay, so I have this file here. And remember, I have a program called EE1520 parse. And then I'm going to do base. Okay, so basically, remember, I have the EE1520 parse, and that program can parse the JSON and say, hey, this JSON I just showed you is actually a valid, syntactically is a valid JSON. But this is still not helping me to understand this JSON correctly. So I'm going to modify the program called parse. Okay, this is the program I showed you earlier. It's called parse. And what I did is I'm going to do one thing after this. I'm going to print the JSON with a nice style. So what did I do? I did a std cout. So usually in C++, we use the function printf. So now I'm going to start to use another way, which is the C++ about the IO string. It's not me, not me. Yeah. So somebody is trying to replace the battery, but all right, fine. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do JV dot to style string. Okay, over here, I call a function called my file to JSON. I actually convert that file into a JSON value object called JV. And over here, I actually using the JV have one of the function called toStyleString and make it very nicely, and then it will print it. So I'm going to make again. Sorry, I miss a S. Thank you. This one is good. Okay. All right. I got my voice back. Thank you. I have to do a capital S instead of lowercase s. Okay. So now if I run the program, now you might see a lot better. So now I'm running this. You see that? It looks like this. It much better, but I want to save it because otherwise you cannot see the whole thing. But I want to save it this way. I was saving a file I call a base style.json. Okay, so now I'm going to upload this to my GitHub. Maybe I will use this first. Emacs base style JSON. Okay, by the way, this one is exactly the same as the JSON you saw previously, which is, let me actually bring it up. So you see, you can contrast its difference. Can I get rid of you in a good way? How can I get rid of the Zoom stuff? It's just grabbing my picture. Okay. Previously, this is the way we see the information. It's basically is just one single lines of character, which is complicated. I cannot parse. But in JSON, if I do this, this is the much better structured representation. The first key value pair is action. And in the action, it has this attribute, but it has an array. Remember, if it's a bracket, it's an array. It's an array of different action I can take related to this post. And then there is another attribute called comments. Comments means that somebody left a comments on your post on Facebook. And the post is also an array. And for each of the posts, it has a time it was created at certain time. At which time in 2020, May 2nd, somebody left the following comments. And the comment was contributed by a person called Peter. And his VSID is whatever, okay? And then a comment has a common ID. And this ID is basically the post, the page ID plus the post ID plus the comment ID. So you can see that there is an ID uniquely identified to each of the comment. And the comment has a content, which is the message, which is the content. The content basically somebody write a message, whether he can get an extension for homework. And then you have a reaction. Reaction means that somebody like it or somebody actually hate it. So you can see that I have two reaction. Also, the reaction has a reaction time. Let me make it a little bit bigger and move my picture somewhere else. No, I don't like this. Get rid of this. Okay, I'm happy. Okay, so now you can see this is a reaction. And reaction also, who actually made the reaction? Peter, he put love. And there is another person, which is Oracle, he actually put angry as a reaction. So what is a reaction? Reaction is a JSON representation. By the way, this portion is reaction, a single reaction to whatever content you're reacting to. So a reaction has a creating time, has a time when this reaction was introduced, and from which person that this reaction was introduced, and also the type of reaction. So the reaction could be angry, could be love, could be like, could be something else. Okay. So essentially, you can think about this is a reaction object, which is the JSON representation. So in other words, I'm telling you that this particular JSON I show you, it has lots of sub-object that's being included. And putting all of these things together, I can represent a fairly complicated. By the way, this design is much more complicated than the Facebook's design about post. For example, in Facebook, the reaction, you don't have a timestamp. You don't know when somebody click like. You actually don't know that. But in this design, we actually be able to track to when this reaction was introduced by who. Okay, so this is a very complicated, but this is a much friendly representation. So you can take a look at this. So this is a JSON representation. So if I only show you this, what do you expect if I want you to represent a reaction class in C++? So this is a JSON representation about something I want to model about my reaction to certain thing. So now with this, you should start thinking about, let me do an exercise. I want all of you start to try to have at least a C++ pseudocode. Okay, so what do I mean by C++ pseudocode? That means, I give you an example. Sorry, give me a second. What is a C++ pseudocode? So a C++ pseudocode, what I really mean is that you declare the class name and you basically provide the attribute you need to include it in the object, because this is the most important thing. If you have a class and then you have a bunch of attribute, then essentially you can represent a reaction like what we have here. Let me try to make it, yeah, this portion. So if I give you this portion, I told you this is a reaction. How do you actually, can you actually try to convert it to a C++ style of representation about a class called reaction? Can you do that? I give you a few minutes. This is not a test, just for you to get used to this kind of thinking about how do you design a C++ style class. Okay, I give you 2 minutes, and then I will get your input, and then we will talk about this from that point. You can use whatever you know about C++ and try to put it. Don't worry about correctness, but just based on what you know, what you learned so far. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay. I need your help. I want you guys to, not all of you, but some of you can give me some hint about how do I write this class. Okay, I'm going to do it right here. So I'm actually putting the file reaction underscore E1520.h. Okay, so now I'm going to put a template, which is a class reaction, and then with a two curly bracket and semicolon. Okay, and then you should have a public, private, protected, and public, which I haven't told you what they mean, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, so now what should I do with the rest of the class? Any help? What do I need here? Anyone? Darn, I forgot chocolate again. Okay. Anybody want to give me a little bit hint? How should I complete this part? So remember, there's a few things, right? Attribute, and there is a constructor, and then there is a member function. So how about attribute? What kind of attribute should I have based on this? Let me go up a little bit. So this is the object looks like. You know what? I'm going to do this. Here's a reaction. Let me make it a little bit bigger. It should cover the whole reaction space. I hate this. How do I? Oh, here. This part is a reaction. So I need to, from here, I need to generate a C++ class. Okay. I need to do this. So the first session I mentioned, we need attribute. We need attribute. So first question I want to ask you, how many attribute do you think we need? How many attribute? 3. Okay, great. We do need 3 attribute. Thank you. So we have a one attribute, which is, I think is about created. And one attribute is about, wait a minute, about person. Let me see. What's the, oh, from. Okay, the attribute name should be from. This is basically from JSON. The first attribute is key value. The attribute means the key part of the key value pair from. And the third attribute is called type. Right? We have 3 attributes to represent a reaction, which is created from and type. Okay, so now let's actually try, I would say type first. What do you think should be the data type for type? What's the data type for the type? Because this is the simplest one. It should be string. Thank you. So now I'm going to write it this way. So I'm going to have a std string type. Okay, that is for the attribute for the type. How about front? I know this side is going to be front, but what should be the type of front? What should be the type of front, do you think? What? Uh, good try, but it's not correct. What should be the data type for front? What? It's an object, but what kind of object? What kind of object is this? It's a person, right? It's a person. So it's interesting is that you guys are all right that this part is an object. That's absolutely correct. But when you convert it to C++, you need to convert the whole thing. Then we're going to ask you what kind of object that is trying to represent. And that is what? Is a person object. So let's actually go back here to say this should be person, a person object. Okay. And then there's a created. What should be the created? It's also an object, but this is an object of a time object. In my system, which you probably haven't familiar with this, is a JV time. It's a JSON representation of time, which is a class I created. So this is called JV time, called created. Okay, so in other words, what we're doing in the process we just did is that we look at a JSON and we actually figure out how many attributes that we need to have, the 3 attributes, and then we try to understand what's the value, what's the data type of each of the attribute. Okay, later we'll show you that this part of the identify which class could be automated. Okay, could be automatically do that. You don't have to manually check on that, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But this is essentially a basic design for the class reaction. And of course, you should add constructor. And later you will add what we call member function. Member function means that if I want to access the data, then what I should be doing. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to show you the real code. Okay, so now I want to direct you. This is going to be, I call that, remember, we're going to do a project at the end of the semester. And now I have a new, let me get back to here. Wait a minute, where's my, I want to go to, okay, I want to go to this particular GitHub. So this GitHub is github.com/sfelixu E1520 spring 2025 _ project base. Okay, so inside here, I already have lots of files, lots of class I defined. Some of the class you already know. For example, GPS, that's actually your old friend by now. And you have a JV time, which I mentioned. And then you have makefile, of course. And then you have person.h, wordy touch. And then you have a reaction.h. Okay, now let's take a look at reaction.h inside here. If you take a look at the reaction.h, it's basically the 3 type. But I'm using pointer style. Okay, okay, this is an interesting decision. I'm actually like to use pointer style representing the reaction. Let me actually tell you what's the design consideration of a reaction with a person star author. Okay, it should be from. For some reason, I put an author. It should be from, by the way. This is flawed about this translation. But roughly, they're representing the same concept. But the reason I actually use a person star instead of using a person object is that because I use a star or reference, if the person change his name, then essentially this reaction, the person's name will change because I'm actually pointing to the original author or from. Okay, if I over here, if I get rid of the star, that means it's a copy of that person's information. So after this person made the reaction, if he changed his name, then I might not be able to link this reaction to the same person who actually made the reaction maybe 10 days ago. Okay, so this is the design choice, whether you want to use a pointer style or you want to make a copy. And this we will encounter lots of questions, but that's not today's point. Today's point is that if I give you a JSON, the reaction, then you actually will have the three attribute, and then you have a reaction, and you have a bunch of function. And look at the function, I have a constructor, I have an operator overloading, and I have dump to JSON and JSON to object. Okay, this two functions almost always I have this two. So you can see that if I have that JSON, it's not that hard for you to translate into a C++ reaction class. Let me actually show you among this, the most complicated class is called post. It's called post. You get rid of this. And you, by the way, you can compile this already, but the most complicated is a post. Let's look at the post. So the posts represent, by the way, the JSON I show you when it looks really complicated is a post, by the way. Let me actually see if I can get that back. Where's my terminal? So this, when I show you, wait a minute, where is that? Ah, it's gone. Every time I try to do something, it's gone. Okay, whatever, that complicated the whole thing. It's a post. And now you can see the post is, of course, more complicated. It has an identifier, has a person, has a vector of person who actually see this post, and has a message, and has an action, has a lots of comment. The comment is an array. So in array, in C++, it's called vector. I haven't told you about how to use a vector. I will do that soon. So vector is a C++ standard template. It basically is like array, but it's stronger than array as it has a lot of other features. And you see it has a reaction, it has a key, it has, okay, JSON difference is something which is more advanced. I'm not going to tell you. It has a created time, has an update time, has a location, has a whether it's a publish. So you can see a post include lots of other objects, such as action, or such as a message object, person object, and action, comment, link, reaction, OK, JSON difference. Those are all being modeled as a C++ class. So essentially, I'm translating a very complicated JSON into a bunch of C++ object. And this object putting together over here is essentially a, wait a minute, am I in that? So this particular repository, which you're encouraged to download and then try to compile it, you should be able to compile it now. This is an implementation, not too much. It's an implementation of a very simple social media system plus a search engine. They have two functionality being built in there. So that's why you can see you have a function call. Let me see, where do I have? Okay. I have a function call, I have a parse, I have a search engine, I have a server, I have a thing, I have an update. Update is like making a post, meaning that I'm uploading a post. And I have a bunch of JSON that's actually helping me to do everything. Okay, So that's the whole thing. I'm just at the end, I just want to show you if you download the code. If you download the code like what I did here, let me just kill it. Yeah, it must be here. That this is a directory. If I do a make clean, if I do a make, you should be able to see there's a lots of classes that's being compiled. And lots of programs such as the server, search engine, and everything is compiled. And it's not that complicated. I just want to tell you, when you think about a service like a Google, like a Facebook, you will say, oh, this must be really complicated. It's not. Let me show you how, for each of the file, how many lines of code we can have. So in Unix, you can have a command called WC. I would say star.ch star. So what I did is I tried to tell you for each of the file, if it's a CPP file or it's a C file or it's an H file, how many lines that they have. So let me just tell you that the first column is a number of line of code. So you can see that action CPP action H is about 130 lines of code. Comment is usually .h, which is the declaration, is much shorter than the code itself. Is 569 lines of code. You can see that the file we work on is GPS. It's about 233 lines of code. I would say the largest one is probably post. Yeah, the post is probably the largest one, is about a little bit less than 1,400 lines of code in post.cpp. And of course, I have some of the function. For example, I have some facility code such as EE1520 JSON related code, or some of the server code is a little bit bigger. But overall, the whole thing to allow us to do a basic um, um, Facebook and plus search engine, this type of thing. The total number of lines of code is about 8,000 lines of code. And this actually includes some of the generated code as well. Okay, so it's actually pretty small. So just give you a heads up for your next homework assignment, we're going to start using this piece of code. And then this will help you to be familiar with this piece of code. And so you can actually start to develop your final project idea. Okay, so I will let's continue on Monday. Okay, thank you. Bye.